Okay, welcome back to another episode of Policy Whiteboard Sessions. As a refresher, I know I say this at the intro of every one of these, but the reason I do this is because I found this to be of really the most helpful thing that I do when I go into a boardroom with a customer or a prospective customer, where we step away from the screens and the PowerPoints and the demonstration of software, and we just have a chat over a whiteboard about the do's and don'ts in healthcare policy management. So today's Policy Whiteboard session is about, and yes, you can tell that I'm Canadian because I've been told over and over again, almost 90% of our customers are from the United States, and I say about. And I listen to you Americans say about, and it sounds like you're saying literally the same thing. It sounds like you're saying about. So anyways, here goes. Today's Policy Whiteboard session is about who should do what in a policy management system. So once you have, the assumption is you have a policy management system, intranet, homegrown, policy management software application, whatever. But once you have a system, a software application, who should do what? What kind of roles should you create? And I find that organizations, hospital organizations, overcomplicate this one way too much, like way too much. So simply the minimum number of roles you have, so the minimal types of things that people do within your policy management system and your policy management process, the better. So the first role, the most basic role, is what I would call your general user. I don't even like that word user, but we'll just go with that. Your general user or person. I think person's a bit better than user. So this person, they simply need to go to the system, search for a policy or browse for a policy, click on it, read it, and move on with their life. The only other thing that they might do once or twice or a couple times a year is acknowledge or comply or attest that they have read that policy or that document and they're going to abide by it. So that's your first type of user. Your second type of user is your editor. So in layman's terms, this is the person that actually writes stuff or edits stuff. So when a document or a policy has to be written for the first time, this is the person that's cranking out that first draft or Googling to find who else has written a draft like that before. This is also the person that is actually doing the actual editing and track changes to the actual policy on an annual basis or every 3 years or whatever your cycle is for your particular policy. So you have your editor. Thirdly, you have your approver or your signer. So this is the person that receives a finished draft or a semi-finished section, and they simply have to read it and acknowledge that, yes, I approve this, or I sign it, or I digitally sign it. So that's pretty much all they do. So you have your general user, you have your editor, and you have your approver or signer. Now sometimes there might be a hybrid role of these two roles, but that's about it. You might need at times to have a project manager, or you might need to have a sub-approver to approve just a section. I'd say 9 times out of 10 when I see stuff like this, they could probably be eliminated and organizations can simply utilize one of these two sections. So to close off, I'd say for this, just don't be fancy, right? Don't be fancy with the roles. Come up with the minimum number of roles. These are the minimum number of roles. I've given you some suggested names here, but feel free to substitute existing names or ways that you call each other within your policy approval process, and you'll be good to go. So thanks for watching this episode of Policy Whiteboard Sessions.